waiting for colleagues to confirm that all is going good here. So yes, we are now able to launch this event. Excellencies, delegates, dear colleagues, welcome to this briefing organized by the Secretariat of the Ad Hoc Open-Ended Working Group on a Science Policy Panel to contribute further to the sound management of chemicals and waste and to prevent pollution in collaboration with the Geneva Environment Network. This event is concluding a series of events organized in the run-up to the negotiations sessions to establish this panel since the adoption at the United Nations Environment Assembly back in 2022 of various landmark historical resolutions, including the one that decided to convene the ad hoc open-ended working group. It is always good to remember as we start these events that in the context of the three planetary environmental crises of climate change, nature biodiversity and land loss, as well as pollution and waste, two intergovernmental bodies to help policymakers taking the adequate actions have been set up for two of these crises. The United Nations Environment Assembly resolution that was adopted 2.5 years ago aims at setting up a science policy panel for the third crisis on pollution and waste. And I said 2.5 years ago, but it's now almost 3 years. The working group that was established following the adoption of the resolution is expected to conclude its substantive discussions on proposals for the establishment of the panel in June at the resumed third session of the open-ended working group, which will take place in Punta del Este, Uruguay, with the aim of finalizing the key documents enabling the establishment and operationalization of the science policy panel. The resumed session is organized back-to-back with the intergovernmental meeting for purpose of considering the establishment of the panel, and with the first meeting of the open-ended working group for the global framework on chemicals to be held in the same venue at the end of June. Similarly to what I highlighted for the science policy panels for the triple planetary crisis, it's also always good to remember that member states have adopted global deals that set agreed goals and targets to tackle the triple planetary crisis. And this global framework on chemicals for a planet free of harm from chemicals and waste, agreed in Bonn in September 2023, is the one driving more action to tackle the pollution crisis. For those preparing for both events, let me bring to your attention that we have organized other briefings that could be of interest. And all can be rewatched online. Summaries are also already available, which brings me to the last point before I hand over to the moderator. To remind you that all the documents to be presented at this session, the video as well as the summary of the event will be made available as usual on our website. You can find the link on the screen and in the chat. Throughout the event, you can raise your questions by using the Q&A box. We will use them to feed the discussion. It's my pleasure now to turn to Ms. Tessa Goverse, who is the head of the Open-Ended Working Group Secretariat, who will be moderating this session and guiding you throughout the event. Without Ms. Goverse, over to you.
Thank you very much, Diana. And on behalf of the Science Policy Open-Ended Working Group Secretariat at UNEP, also a very warm welcome to this webinar, the pre-session briefing for OEWG 3.2, which is the last webinar on the road to OEWG 3.2. So my sincere thanks go out to the Geneva Environment Network for the collaboration on this very important webinar series, walking us all down the road to OWEG 3.2 in Punta del Este. My thanks also go to all of you for joining the live briefing or for watching this recording at a later time. The session today aims to prepare delegates for a successful and smooth OEWG 3.2, to update all stakeholders on the OEWG process, and the webinar also promotes collaborative approaches and helps elevate voices from science, government, and stakeholders. It's now my pleasure to welcome the chair of the Ad Hoc Open-Ended Working Group, Ms. Goody Alkemade, for some opening remarks. Goody, you have the floor.
Thank you, Tessa, and let me thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to speak at this briefing on the preparations for our resumed third session of the open-ended working group to discuss our work on preparing for the establishment of a science policy panel to contribute to the sound management of chemicals and waste and to prevent pollution. Let me also thank the Secretariat, the Geneva Environment Network, Rolf of the Basel, Stockholm and Rotterdam Secretariat, and all the distinguished speakers and participants joining us today. The work ahead is both urgent and potentially historic, as we are expected to set the foundations for the Science Policy Panel by finalizing the foundational document and draft rules of procedure, as we had agreed when we ended our third session in Geneva last year. And we are also expected to finalize the 3 related draft decisions to be adopted by the intergovernmental meeting, recommending the establishment of the panel, interim arrangements, and the transmission of draft proposals to be further considered by the governing body of the panel. To finalize our work, it is imperative to focus on the essential elements required to enable the establishment of the panel and to come with the necessary flexibility and possible solutions to address outstanding issues, including the panel's function, membership, decision-making, and institutional arrangement, as well as the related draft decisions and the rules of procedure. Keeping in mind the agreement to also focus on the draft rules of procedure, it is suggested to organize our work during the resumed session in a coherent and organized way by considering the key sections of the foundational document in conjunction with the related rules. With the agreement to finalize our work to be adopted at the intergovernmental meeting organized back-to-back, let us build on the momentum and continue building on the tentative agreements already achieved in previous meetings. We do not start from scratch, and in our past meetings, we have been able to reflect the different views, as well as to make progress in finding tentative solutions on a number of issues. We should have everything on the table now to find possible solutions to establish a panel that can meet expectations to all. The world is watching and expectations are high. I am convinced that we can make this work. Above all, the panel would respond to the need identified by many to enhance access to relevant science that can inform and enhance our policies, in particular at the national level, and to implement relevant MEAs. Today's webinar is an opportunity to ensure that we become informed and can prepare ourselves for possible alignments and be ready to deliver. Let us live up to our shared commitment at UNEA. Let us commit to find solutions to multilateralism and play our part to contribute to the protection of human health and the environment for all. Thank you, and I look forward to working with you and see you soon in Uruguay. Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you so much, Goody, for your leadership and also for these encouraging and inspiring words. This is really appreciated. It's now my honor to welcome Rolf Payet, the Executive Secretary of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Convention, to provide his opening remarks and perspectives on what we are working towards in Uruguay and beyond. Rolf, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Tessa, and thank you so much, Goody, for your leadership in guiding the SANS, the SPP panel so far. Dear colleagues, it's a great pleasure for me to join you today at this important event in preparation for the third session of the OEWG, or Open-Ended Working Group, on the Science Policy Panel that will take place next June, well, in a couple of weeks, in Uruguay. Let me first extend our big thanks to the UNEP's team, and especially the SPP Secretariat, for the excellent work and their support and contributions during our Conference of the Parties, which took place a couple of weeks ago. As you all know, the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions are part of what we call the Chemicals and Waste Cluster under UNEP. We work together along with other conventions, such as the Minamata Convention on Mercury, the Montreal Protocol on the ozone, and the Global Framework on Chemicals. And we all share one important common goal, that is to protect human health and the environment from the adverse effects of hazardous chemicals and wastes, and by ensuring this environmentally sound management throughout their entire life cycle. As you all know, science has always been the backbone of our decision-making processes, from the listing of new chemicals under the Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions to the development of technical guidelines and standards and the measurement of progress through global assessments and national reporting. Therefore, the science to policy interaction is very much central to the work we do in the BRS Secretariat. This future science policy panel, therefore, is a very important opportunity for us to enhance science-based decision-making globally and to strengthen international mechanisms to address pollution worldwide. It is therefore important, and I'm urging parties to really put in the work, and let's have a science policy panel at this meeting in Uruguay. Within the BRS conventions, we've also gained valuable experience in operating inclusive, balanced, and effective scientific bodies. We've learned that interdisciplinary expertise, regional balance, gender equity, and stakeholder participation, including those from observers, are all essential to ensure legitimacy and quality of the work that we do. These are lessons that we have highlighted in previous meetings, which includes as well having clear bodies with clear rules of procedure and methodologies also to assess the data, identify priorities, and also ensure policy relevance. I am pleased to inform that our parties to our 3 conventions has requested the Secretariat of BRS to continue and enhance our cooperation and coordination with the future science policy panel. In particular, the Conference of the Parties have reiterated the need to promote coordination and cooperation, as well as complementarity in the work of the future science policy panel and the scientific and technical bodies under the conventions, as well as to continue contributing to the preparation of the proposals to the panel. And therefore, I'll be very happy to be there with you in Punta del Este during this very important moment and remain available to support you in this negotiating process to establish the panel. The BRS Secretariat will also continue its collaboration for the establishment and early stages of the panel to share our experience and to support its integration within our scientific and policy mechanism. We still need to think together how we can establish a strong link between the panel outcomes and products and other international bodies. How will this information produced by the panel be taken on board? Which topics will the panel address to inform international decision-making processes? These and other questions need concrete answers, and I'm looking forward to hear from you all at the conference in Uruguay. I look forward to further engaging with all of you during the meetings in Uruguay, as we have a very important task before us. I think, as I've asked to all my parties when I have my COPs, is let's come prepared, let's sit around the table, and let's negotiate and come out with clear decisions so that we can move forward and ensure that such a panel will play an instrumental role in the work that we do in addressing chemicals and waste issues. So with those few words, and looking forward to see you all in Punta del Este, I thank you, and over to you, Tessa.
Thank you very much, Rolf, for those words of wisdom and for your continued support to the SPP OEWG process. Really, as we are getting ready for OEWG 3.2, it's really good to hear your views here and also to welcome you in June in Punta del Este and really see together how the panel can help enhance the efforts that are already being made by governments at national level, and also to strengthen the implementation of the global agreements and work out the linkages between the panel and the BRS. Thank you. I now would like to welcome my colleague at the Secretariat of the Open-Ended Working Group, hosted by UNEP, Ms. Nalini Sharma, to provide us with an update on the preparations for the resumed third session of the ad hoc open-ended working group on a science policy panel to contribute to the sound management of chemicals and waste and to prevent pollution, or in short, OEWG 3.2. Nalini, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Tessa, and I'm very pleased to be here with you to provide you with an update on the preparations for the resumed third session of the ad hoc open-ended working group on a science policy panel to contribute further to the sound management of chemicals and waste and to prevent pollution. Next slide, please. For those of you who are new to this process, I would like to take this opportunity to speak to the mandate of the ad hoc open-ended working group as set out in UNEA Resolution 5/8, adopted in 2022. The resolution decides that a science policy panel should be established to contribute further to the sound management of chemicals and waste and to prevent pollution, that an ad hoc open-ended working group will be convened that begins its work in 2022 with the ambition of completing it by the end of 2024. And that the ad hoc open-ended working group will prepare proposals for the science policy panel considering a range of issues spelled out in the resolution. The resolution also requests the Executive Director of UNEP, upon completion of proposals prepared by the ad hoc open-ended working group, to convene an intergovernmental meeting for the purpose of considering the establishment of a science policy panel. Next slide, please. A detailed account from the meeting can be found in the meeting report of what now is referred to as the first part of the third session of the ad hoc open-ended working group on a science policy panel to contribute further to the sound management of chemicals, waste, and to prevent pollution, or what we're calling OEWG 3.1. The report has been made available and has been available in all 6 UN languages on the OEWG 3 website. I would like to draw your attention in particular to the outcomes of the negotiations, which are annexed to the meeting report. This is where you will find all the text as it stood at the close of our June 2024 negotiations that took place in Geneva almost a year ago. Each annex includes a draft decision and an associated annex or annexes. Next slide, please. So since June 2024, we've had a number of events in the lead up to the resumed third session of the ad hoc open-ended working group. These include a number of webinars, side events, informal briefings, and regional meetings. I would like to point out that the working documents for the resumed third session have been made available in all 6 UN languages from the 1st of May this year. And now we are 2 weeks away from the resumed third session, which will start with regional stakeholder and informal consultations from, on the 14th of June, the resumed third session of the ad hoc open-ended working group from 15th to 18th of June, and the intergovernmental meeting from the 19th to the 20th of June. Next slide, please. To prepare participants for the resumed third session, the Secretariat has continued to organize webinars and briefings, as I mentioned in the roadmap in the previous slide. And notably, these are part of the Road to Open-Ended Working Group 3.2 series, organized in collaboration with the Geneva Environment Network. As mentioned earlier, that the recordings can be found online and the links are embedded in this presentation. The following 3 webinars were organized since June 2024, which include a webinar on strengthening scientists' engagement, an information session on the foundational document and rules of procedure, informing governments and other stakeholders of the state of play at the close of Open-Ended Working Group 3.1, and a webinar offering relevant examples from other panels, namely IPCC and IPBES, for the establishment of a science policy panel. On the 25th of March, the Secretariat organized a briefing for the SPP Open-Ended Working Group focal points on the OEWG 3.2 scenario note by the chair, which will also speak to the modalities for the meeting and other details. The Secretariat also organized, together with the BRS Secretariat, the United Kingdom, and the Geneva Environment Network, a side event which took place in the margins of the BRS COPs on the 29th of April. Finally, we are here now at the pre-session briefing on Open-Ended Working Group 3.2. Next slide, please. The slide presents the working documents for Open-Ended Working Group 3.2. So we have the agenda, which is the agenda that was adopted at Open-Ended Working Group 3.1. We have an annotated agenda, which is add 1 to the agenda. Document 5 provides the report of the first part of the third session of the Open-Ended Working Group. Document 6 presents the foundational document and related draft decision for consideration by the Intergovernmental Meeting to establish a science policy panel. Document 7 presents the recommendations for consideration by the governing body of the Science Policy Panel to contribute further to the sound management of chemicals and waste and to prevent pollution at its first session, and related draft decision for consideration by the Intergovernmental Meeting. And finally, working document 8 presents the proposal on interim arrangements to be considered by the Intergovernmental Meeting to establish a science policy panel. Next slide, please. This slide presents the information documents available for Open-Ended Working Group 3.2. So Inf 8 presents the scenario note for the resumed third session. We have Inf 9 that presents the draft financial procedures, and Inf 10, which is the compilation of written submissions on Open-Ended Working Group 3.2 working documents. The deadline had been extended up till last Wednesday, or so yesterday rather, and this will be uploaded on the website shortly. Next slide, please. This slide shows where the meeting documents can be found on the Open-Ended Working Group 3.2 website. And as mentioned earlier, the working documents are available in all 6 UN languages. Next slide, please. In January this year, it was decided that the resumed third session of the ad hoc Open-Ended Working Group, OEWG 3.2, will take place at the Convention and Exhibition Center in Punta del Este from the 15th to 18th of June 2025. The resumed session will be preceded by informal, regional, and stakeholder consultations on the 14th of June 2025, and followed by an intergovernmental meeting from 19th to 20th of June, held at the same venue. Sorry, excuse me. We would like to thank the government of Uruguay for hosting the meetings. Just for your information, registration for Open-Ended Working Group 3.2 and the Intergovernmental Meeting have been closed. However, you can please contact the Secretariat regarding late registration. I would like to also mention that these meetings are taking place back-to-back with the first session of the Open-Ended Working Group of the Global Framework on Chemicals, so many of you may be participating in that meeting as well. Next slide, please. As agreed at Open-Ended Working Group 3.1, the main focus of the resumed third session will be to finalize 2 key documents. The foundational document, which sets out key elements for the panel's establishment, and as you see here, listed in the first 4 bullet points under the foundational document, and the draft rules of procedure to be adopted by the panel once it is established. The open-ended working group will also need to finalize 3 draft decisions that are necessary for the intergovernmental meeting to establish the panel and set its work in motion. The second draft, the first draft decision establishes the panel and will have in an annex the foundational document. The second draft transmits the open-ended working group's proposals to the panel's governing body at its first session. There are 4 proposals annexed to the draft decision, one of which is the draft rules of procedure. The third decision sets up interim arrangements to allow for preparations of the first session of the panel's governing body. Next slide, please. So this is a graphic, and we expect that there will be 3 outcomes that will be recommended to the intergovernmental meeting, each tied to one of these draft decisions. First, we have the establishment draft decision, which has an annex that includes the finalized foundational document. It is by adopting this decision that the intergovernmental meeting will establish the panel. Next, we have the transmittal decision, which has 4 annexes, the first of which will be finalized draft rules of procedure, which is the focus of Open-Ended Working Group 3.2, and the other 3 which will be forwarded as they stood at Open-Ended Working Group 3.1. By transmitting these items to the first session of the panel's governing body, the intergovernmental meeting will ensure that the work of the Open-Ended Working Group is taken up by the panel for consideration and/or finalization and adoption. Finally, in adopting the draft decision on interim arrangements, the intergovernmental meeting will set in motion the necessary arrangements so that the first session of the governing body of the panel can be prepared. Next slide, please. So turning to the organizational matters, we will have the UNEA rules of procedure apply mutatis mutandis. The opening of the session will take place on Sunday, the 15th of June at 10 a.m. As mentioned earlier, Open-Ended Working Group 3.1 adopted the provisional agenda, and that has now been forwarded to the Open-Ended Working Group 3.2. Open-Ended Working Group 3.2 will also work according to the annotated agenda, which is the addendum to the provisional agenda. Opening statements will be delivered by high-level representative from the government of Uruguay, as well as the executive director of UNEP. There will be no general statements during the opening plenary. We are in a resumed session. However, written statements can be submitted to the Secretariat for uploading, and we will provide you with the necessary information in terms of the email addresses to send these written statements. And then we expect that regional and stakeholder group statements will be made under the agenda item 4 and 5, the substantive agenda items for the meeting. Next slide, please. This is the agenda. I won't go through it, but just wanted to share this with you and put it up on the screen. You will recognize it from Open-Ended Working Group 3.1, where it was adopted. Next slide, please. Okay, in terms of the modality of work at Open-Ended Working Group 3.2, contact groups and informal groups will be established as needed. Contact groups are open to participation by all governments and stakeholders unless otherwise decided by the chair or the co-facilitators of contact groups. Contact group meetings may be held in parallel while avoiding, to the extent possible, parallel meetings on closely related issues. Sorry, okay, thank you for making it a bit clearer. Contact group meetings will not be scheduled concurrently with a plenary meeting efforts will be made that no more than 2 contact groups or informal group meetings are scheduled at the same time. Contact group and informal groups will be provided with clear and concise mandates. Given the anticipated limited time available and the limited size of delegations, the open-ended working group may wish to facilitate an iterative process and limit the time of contact group sessions working on specific issues. Contact group and other informal groups will work in English only, and accordingly, documents and non-papers considered at their meetings will also be in English only. Contact groups will continue to build upon what they already agreed, including in UNEA Resolution 5/8 and previous sessions of the open-ended working group. Next slide, please. So here we have presented the proposed clustering of key topics for the contact groups. The first contact group will consider membership and functions of the bodies of the panel, decision-making, and related rules of procedure. The second contact group will look at the other foundational elements and related rules of procedure and the draft decision to establish the panel. And finally, the third contact group will look at other rules of procedure, the draft decision to forward the draft rules, procedures and policies, and the draft decision on the interim arrangements. Next slide, please. Here is a quick snapshot of the tentative schedule. This is included in the scenario note for this meeting. Next slide, please. In terms of the expected outcomes from Open-Ended Working Group 3.2, which is also reflected in the scenario note for this meeting, the expectation is at the end of the Open-Ended Working Group 3.2, the following will be finalized. The draft decision on the establishment of the panel, including a proposal for the name of the panel and the foundational elements as set out in the foundational document contained in the annex to the draft decision. The draft decision recommending the consideration and adoption of the rules of procedure by the governing body of the panel at its first session, and the forwarding for further consideration and finalization at this session of the draft procedures and policies in their present form as set out in annexes 2 to 4 to the draft decision. And the draft decision on arrangements for the interim period that are required for the operation of the panel, including the preparation for the first session of the governing body of the panel. Next slide, please. So again, just reminding you all, the meeting will take place at the Convention and Exhibition Center in Punta del Este in Uruguay. Next slide, please. And I'll go now to the logistical aspects of the meeting. So in terms of the registration status for Open-Ended Working Group 3.2, we have a total of 623 approved registrants, of which we have 298 registrants from government from 122 countries, and you'll see the breakdown by region. And we also have 325 registered participants from stakeholder groups, the relevant MEAs, NGOs, and other UN organizations. Next slide, please. This is a registration status for the intergovernmental meeting. We have a total of 534 registered participants, of which 259 are from governments, from 107 governments. And again, we have a breakdown of regional participation or registration, and then 275 registrants from other stakeholders. Next slide, please. This is a very important one in terms of visa requirement. Today, in fact, tomorrow is the deadline for us to request for any visa exemption letters. The exceptionally and a courtesy for these meetings, the government of Uruguay has offered to issue visa exemption letters for eligible participants. We have an email address here of Maureen Bidat. In case you have any questions, we would really appreciate if there are any outstanding requests for visa exemption letters to let us know immediately. We also would like to highlight that you need to carry both documents that have been reflected in the visa exemption letter, which will include the participant's full name and passport details. Next slide, please. This is an update on transportation. Government of Uruguay has provided us. There will be a welcome desk available at the Carrasco International Airport on 12th and 13th of June, operating 24 hours a day, and on the 14th of June from midnight to 4 p.m. They have organized private transfers. The service will take each passenger from the airport to accommodation to Punta del Este for centrally located hotels, and also semi-private transportation. Passengers will be grouped with other participants with a maximum waiting time of 2 hours after their flight arrival. And we'd like you to refer, please, to the information note for participants, which is on the websites for both Open-Ended Working Group 3.2 and the IM for the rates offered. They're also being organized transportation in Punta del Este from the hotels to the venue. A daily round-trip transportation service will be offered. This service will be scheduled based on the daily meeting program, with 2 options in the morning and 2 return options to the hotels in the evening. And again, please refer to the information note for participants for the rate offered. So here you would need, and I think this is an important note for everyone to know, that participants are recommended to make the reservations and payment for these services before their upcoming trip to Uruguay, and the contact information will be shared soon. And we will inform you as soon as that contact information is available through a notification via email. Next slide, please. This is an update on the accommodation. So participants are responsible for making their own hotel reservations. Participants are encouraged to seek accommodation near the center of Punta del Este to facilitate easy access by Uber, taxi services, the other transport I mentioned earlier, to commute to and from the conference and the exhibition center. We have an online booking platform. I think many of you will have seen that. That was provided in the original information note for participants before it was updated. And if you want more information, please contact the Centro de Hotels Punta del Este, and the email address is provided in this slide. Next slide, please. This is a final note on the logistics in terms of catering. So participants may purchase food and drink through the catering services available at the convention center. We'd like you to note that there are no restaurants or shops in the vicinity of the convention center, and food ordered through a delivery service cannot be brought into the convention center. So please take note of these information on catering. Next slide, please. So that brings me to the end of this presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Over back to you, Tessa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nalini, and also thanks to all my colleagues in the Secretariat who has been working very, very hard behind the scenes together with counterparts in Uruguay in the preparation of this important meeting. The Secretariat remains open to your questions. I think many of you are familiar with our email address, spp-cwp@un.org. And also we have received a few questions here through the live chat. So perhaps I can share with you 2 questions, Nalini. The first one is that if there is a possibility to provide further update on the visa exemption process. I would note that I think the question came in before you actually spoke to this particular topic. But if there's anything you would like to add or point out, then please do. A second question that we received in the chat is from a representative who has applied for the meeting. and is indeed seeking the inclusivity and the balance of the meeting in terms of representation has not been picked to from the constituency to actually be sponsored to the meeting. But it has a constructive suggestion to perhaps not receive the response rejection, but perhaps something like approved or not approved. And perhaps no, from my side, I can say thank you for that suggestion. This is, I think, what we have for now. Yes, I would turn to you, Nalini. Any further comment you would like to make on process or limitations that we have?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So in terms of the visa, we, of course, in the Indigo registration, if there was an indication that a visa exemption letter is required, there was a chance to tick that box. We then harvested all of that information and have provided it to the government of Uruguay, who are supporting us tremendously in providing us these letters. We understand that the letters should have started to be transmitted back to the delegates, and this is being trickled because we had different batches. So if you haven't received your visa exemption letter, please do let us know, and we will then follow up with the government of Uruguay. I also mentioned that there is an email address, I think it was in the presentation, of Maureen Bidat, and you can also contact her directly if that's easier. In terms of the approvals for the registration, we do have quite a strict system where we require note verbals, designation letters that are uploaded onto the Indigo registration portal. Thank you also for that feedback around the kind of response that you get, and we will feed back to our Indigo registration colleagues in order if they can make some changes. This is a automated system, and so we are a little bit in the hands of the system, but thank you very much for that feedback. If there are any kind of specific, I think, requests, please do contact us at the SPP Secretariat. It's on the next slide, the thank you slide. The email address is there, and we can address some of these bilateral issues directly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nalini. And while you spoke, there is some further questions on visa exemptions in the chat. They're often, I think, for specific individuals. So indeed, as per your guidance, we encourage everyone to get in touch directly with the Secretariat or with the contacts provided on the slide. There's also a question, Nalini, for the conduct of the meeting. Will there be a virtual connection to the meeting, and a request to perhaps resend the list of hotels? Perhaps you would like to
yes,
answer these.
So maybe I'll take the list of hotels. So if you please go on our website and download the information note for participants, all the links to the hotels, etc., are available there. And if I can please ask the Jen to maybe provide that link onto this chat or the Q&A part where people can access, that would be really great. Secondly, in terms of having the plenary sessions of Open-Ended Working Group 3.2 will be live streamed, so the plenary sessions only. And as soon as we have the links and information on the links, those will be also made available on our website. So do keep checking our website. As soon as they're available, we'll also send out a email notification to all registered participants and our focal points. Thank you. And thank you, Jen, for putting this slide up on the accommodation. If you can just put the link as well for the information note for participants, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nalini. And maybe just to answer the question about the virtual connection to the meeting, the plenary sessions will be live streamed. So those you can follow if you are not able to travel to Uruguay. With that, I would like to thank you very much, Nalini, with the updates from the Secretariat side. I think we are now moving into a few updates of other events and meetings that are being organized before, during, and after the OEWG 3.2 and the Intergovernmental meeting. And for this, I would like to invite, first of all, the head of the Secretariat of the Global Framework on Chemicals, Kay Williams, to give a brief update on the open-end working group of the GFC taking place after the SPP meetings. Kay, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Tessa, and delighted to be here. Hello, Excellencies, colleagues. I'm going to just give you a little bit of an update on the Global Framework on Chemicals, which was agreed in 2023. As some of you may know, it's a multi-stakeholder, multi-sector agreement with 5 strategic objectives and 28 targets. So when it was agreed, we did have a strong political commitment that did stress the urgency of action in the area of chemicals waste. And we also have a fund with about 28 million US dollars. And we have just agreed, the executive board has just agreed the first few projects to be funded through that pot of money. So in terms of the Science Policy Panel, the discussions, and some of you may remember this, the discussions actually started in the space occupied by the predecessor of the Global Framework on Chemicals when they were looking under SciCam to strengthen the science policy interface. And for the Global Framework, it's incredibly important to have a very, very strong, highly evidence-based work. The framework has many specialists, as do the other conventions and multilateral environment agreements in the area of chemicals and wastes. And we really do value that every work and the solutions and the issues that we work on are really soundly based in science and evidence. The global framework, though, is now in a period of implementation. We're talking about implementing key actions to transform the way that chemicals, those that work with chemicals, can move to a much safer and more sustainable management system. And indeed, as we're working with businesses and supporting the transformation of supply chains, these transformational shifts require solutions that transform. New sustainable chemicals require innovation, and it's about mainstreaming the sustainable chemistry. And this is where we look to the Science Policy Panel to help us make sure that, in fact, in its policy relevant recommendations, should it be agreed, that in fact that we are making those right decisions and put in place those right solutions so that we do not make regrettable substitutions and regrettable mistakes that end up being more harmful to human health and the environment. So as been trailed, we are back to back with the open-ended working group on Science Policy Panel and the Intergovernmental meeting. We also have an IMC meeting in the middle, so there's plenty of work that will be going on in 2 weeks in Punta del Este in Uruguay. We're really looking forward to going to the meetings. Our meeting will be hybrid in places. It will be very interactive, and we'll be progressing the work of the framework and really being a bit of a milestone and a check as we focus on our efforts on trying to make that difference and head towards the international conference, which will be in 2026. So finally, I'd just like to add that I wish you well for the SPP negotiations, and I really hope that there is a successful outcome. And I'm sure that I'll be working with many of you and with the Science Policy Panel in the very close linkages that we hope to establish moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kay. for that update. Next update will be brought to you by Anna Becker, Policy Director at International Sustainable Chemistry Collaborative Center, the ISC3. Anna, please, you have the floor for a very quick update on what is ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tessa. Distinguished Excellencies, colleagues, I'm pleased to share a brief update on the developments of the SPP Science Alliance, the initiative that took root in December 2023 during the second meeting of the SPP Open-Ended Working Group. The alliance was born out of the energy of the Science and Technology Major Group with the aim of strengthening the science policy interface within the framework of the SPP. Such an alliance is envisaged to be an international network of interdisciplinary and independent scientific and technical experts with diverse social, geographical, and disciplinary diversity, which seeks to bring together the expertise needed to address global environmental issues. Since its inception, the Alliance has brought together a dedicated core team and a broader extended network of volunteers who meet regularly to shape and advance its collective work. Following an official kick-off meeting in early 2024, the Alliance organized into working groups that have focused on several key areas, such as crafting a clear vision and mission for the Alliance, developing proposals for potential governance structures and possible flagship products, as well as outlining next steps for identifying a suitable host, organization, and securing sustainable funding. The Alliance also reported on progress in several webinars last year and this year. One of our early achievements of 2025 was the development of a Science for Policy training program in May. This program is designed to equip scientists active in the science policy nexus with the skills and competences needed to maximize scientist impact in policy processes. We look forward to sharing more about this training and the content with you when we meet in Uruguay, for example, on 14th of June. Looking ahead to the upcoming OEWG session, priorities of the Science Alliance include holding in-person working meetings to deepen collaboration and to make tangible progress on securing both financing and finding a host organization. These are two areas that remain among our most urgent and challenging next steps. Despite these hurdles, our commitment to the SPP Science Alliance remains strong, and we keep on receiving interest and positive feedback throughout our journey so far. We are excited about the momentum we have built and the potential of this community to shape more impactful science policy engagement. Thank you for your attention, and we look forward to continuing to reach out to you and talk to you more about this initiative in Uruguay next month.
Thank you very much, Anna, for this update. And without further ado, keeping an eye on the clock, I'm handing over for a short update by Stephen Setyawan from the Children and Youth Major Group to UNEP. Stephen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Tessa, for the introduction. So, distinguished delegates, experts, colleagues, and panelists, my name is Stephen from Indonesia, and I'm representing the Children and Youth Major Group to UNEP. We are the formal youth engagement mechanism to UNEP alongside with other major group and stakeholders, and we have an update to be delivered in this moment to update you about the preparation and the plans of engagement that CWMG will have during the OEWG 3.2 and also in the intergovernmental meeting. So in the intersessional period between OEWG 3.1 and OEWG 3.2, CWMG UNEP has made several consultations with our members to deliver several key deliverables that we as a major group would like to discuss with distinguished delegates, colleagues, panelists, and participants in OEWG 3.2. Four of our points are the proposal on the future panel name, So we propose and support the name of Intergovernmental Panel on Chemicals, Waste and Pollution, or IPCWP, which reflects the panel's core mandate to contribute further to the sound management of chemicals, waste and pollution, aligning with UNEA Resolution 5.8. The second one, we also, through 2 virtual roundtables, have had top 10 priorities that we will present to the distinguished delegates and colleagues in person. And it's built based on consultation with youth, which includes prioritize intergenerational equity, inclusive plenary functions, establish a youth expert advisory group, and other principles. And the third one, we also have submitted to UNEP our general comments and textual proposals on the document of UNEP SPP CWP OEWG 3/6, 7, and 8. We have several comments on the foundational document, on the more explicit language on youth engagement mechanisms and clearer operational commitments. And for 3/7, we recommend inclusion of indicative language on inclusive and participatory modalities of stakeholder engagement. And lastly, we also have 5 proposals for meaningful engagement. We deliver in the document 5 proposals, including the establishment of Youth Expert Advisory Group, Fellowship Program, PhD Scholarship, a youth network, and also youth-friendly deliverables and outreach. For more information, I will post in the chat on the QR code to our deliverables and submission to UNEP, and we are looking forward to negotiate and collaborate with you all during the OWG 3.2. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Anna, for giving us a lightning round of updates on as part of the briefing part of this session today. Thank you, Stephen, for mentioning the submissions that have been received by the SPP Secretariat on the working documentation, and just picking up on questions that I was able to read in the chat whilst you were speaking. These are made available. The deadline was extended till yesterday, so we are currently compiling that, and this will be put out as information document number 10. Perhaps also to confirm, the PowerPoint presentation will be made available to the Gen Secretariat, who will share it from their side. And finally, I think we got all the other details actually by Nalini in the presentation. Now I would like to move to the moderated discussion part of this webinar. We will have this discussion in 3 rounds. We will start with a round of perspectives from the science community, followed by a round in which we will hear from governments and we will be provided with some of the country perspectives. And in the 3rd round, we will hear from other stakeholder perspectives. So without further ado, I would like to start with the perspectives from the science community on the science policy panel, and I welcome Sherika Whitelock-Dalling-Singh from the Caribbean Poison Information Network at the University of Technology of Jamaica. Please, Sherika, you're welcome to take the floor. We're looking forward to your thoughts on the importance of the panel, science as a foundation for policy, the two-way exchange between science and policy, and the engagement of truly a worldwide representation of the science community. Over to you.
Thank you, Tessa, Your Excellency, the Secretariat, and all participants. Good time of day. To confront the intricate and the intertwined challenges of the triple planetary crisis, including the catastrophic impacts of climate change, the alarming loss of biodiversity, and the pervasive threat of pollution, policy development must be deeply rooted in thorough and interdisciplinary scientific research. This multifaceted approach should encompass a broad spectrum of scientific domains, extending beyond the traditional boundaries of the natural sciences to incorporate insights from the social sciences, economic evaluations, and diverse local knowledge systems. Notably important is the integration of the rich and invaluable perspective of indigenous communities, whose unique understanding of their environments often unveils context-specific solutions that can effectively address these pressing global issues. It is vital for the panel to nurture a vibrant, reciprocal relationship between scientific inquiry and policymaking. This entails not only translating empirical research and compelling scientific data into actionable and pragmatic policy recommendations, but also establishing dynamic channels for policymakers to articulate their specific inquiries, concerns, and priorities back to the scientific community. By fostering this two-way dialogue, the panel will ensure that scientific research remains relevant and adeptly respond to the urgent and evolving challenges of chemical management, waste reduction, and pollution prevention. And this will create a synergy that empowers both scientists and policymakers. There is an eager anticipation within the scientific community for the panel to make meaningful advancements in delineating a clear, inclusive, and ambitious framework, complete with a well-articulated set of functions. This guiding structure should mirror the intricate complexities and interconnections inherent in the challenges surrounding chemicals, waste, and pollution, ensuring that all dimensions of these issues are comprehensively addressed. The scientific community is profoundly committed to seeing the panel embrace the principles of inclusivity and sustain engagement throughout its journey. This includes a focused effort to amplify diverse voices, especially those of early career researchers, scientists hailing from the global south, and representatives from underrepresented academic discipline. While the specific process and modalities will be defined by the panel once it's convened, there is palpable enthusiasm within the scientific community to remain actively involved both in the open-ended working group discussions and the panel's future initiatives. This commitment ensures that a rich tapestry of knowledge holders is represented in crucial decision-making process, and this will cultivate a more holistic and effective approach to global challenges. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherika. And I think this is really giving further food for thought and reflection. And I encourage everyone to do so, whilst we are now moving our focus towards the other side of the science policy interface. And we'll hear from some country perspectives. So moving on to that next round, it's my pleasure to welcome 3 panelists. We are very pleased to have you here with us today. We look forward to hearing your thoughts and expectations, how the panel could possibly support you in your work, the importance of science for the national level action and strengthening of the capacity at that level, as well as any other perspectives that you may wish to share for OWEG 3.2. First, it's a great honor to invite Ms. Guli, Director level official at the Department of International Cooperation of the Ministry of Ecology and Environment of China. Ms. Guli, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tessa. Distinguished guests, dear colleagues, good day to all of you. I would like to first extend my gratitude to the Secretariat for inviting China to deliver a speech at today's webinar. Thank you to the Secretariat for all the preparations for the resumed third session of the ad hoc open-ended working group towards the science policy panel to contribute further to the sound management of chemicals and waste and to prevent pollution. After IPCC on climate change and EBS on biodiversity loss, we are now going to have the third science policy body focusing on chemicals and waste and pollution prevention. The establishment of the Science Policy Panel marks a pivotal step in strengthening global governance on chemicals and waste. It reflects our shared commitment addressing environmental challenges, safeguarding human health, and promoting sustainable development. This panel will enable coordinated action to provide scientific and political support to ensure that no country or community is left behind in our collective efforts against pollution. The Chinese government attaches great importance to and continues to promote the environmental management of chemicals and waste, which has been incorporated into national economic and social development strategies and plans as a key task in the comprehensive promotion of the construction of a beautiful China and the realization of a Chinese modernization with man and nature living in harmony. We have walked a long way towards the establishment of the panel. The road is shaped by persistent dialogues and convergence of diverse perspectives. The resumed third session is a moment that all sides work together to seek common ground in order to establish the panel. As an old Chinese proverb goes, nothing can be accomplished without standards. At the coming resumed session, the consensus on clear and robust rules of procedure and governance mechanisms will serve as a bedrock of the panel, which will ensure transparency, inclusiveness, and effectiveness in our future work. China has been actively participating in the process of establishing the panel. We stand ready to work with all sides to build consensus, pool wisdom, and contribute to the sound management of chemicals and waste. Let us seize this opportunity to turn vision into action for a healthier and more sustainable future for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gu, for your intervention and your important contribution to our panel discussion today. Without further ado, I would like to call upon our next speaker. Our next speaker will be Isabelle Meyer, the head of the International Engagement on Chemicals of the Environment and Climate Change, Canada. Isabelle, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tessa. You can hear me well?
Very well.
Thank you. Alors, bonjour du Canada. Greetings to everyone from Canada. I would like to express my thanks for the invitation to join you here today. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to share Canada's perspective on the upcoming OEWG 3.2, as well as the intergovernmental meeting. And our thanks go to the government of Uruguay for hosting those two meetings. From the Canadian perspective, I can say that we look forward to the OEWG 3.2 as an important step to conclude our discussions on the key documents that can be forwarded to the intergovernmental meeting to establish the panel. In Canada's view, it is important to build on the work that we have already collectively achieved in previous meetings in designing this new international entity. And many features of the panel have also already been outlined in the UNEA resolution, giving the impetus for this work on which we can lean on for efficiency. the outcomes of our work from the previous OEWG meetings would enable the science policy panel to be responsive to the evolving knowledge, science, innovation, and development in chemicals, waste management, and pollution prevention for the protection of human health and the environment. Canada has a robust and well-established domestic chemicals management plan to protect human health and the environment. And this plan encompasses, among other, risk assessment, risk management, compliance and enforcement of regulatory measures domestically, and monitoring, as well as performance evaluation. And in this context, we see both the importance and a great opportunity presented by the future panel, given the requirement for timely, accessible, and policy-relevant scientific information tailored to circumstances of each country to effectively address challenges related to chemicals, waste, and pollution. The panel can be a positive force for such evidence-based work, informing decision-making at national, regional, and global levels. It could help close knowledge gaps. It could also help address cross-cutting issues that fall outside of the mandate of any particular MEA, can support timely policy responses to emerging risks, and raise global awareness of the importance of the sound chemicals and waste management and pollution prevention at large to protect the health and environment. Canada is of the view that given there are already a number of fora in the chemicals and waste international sphere, one of the SPP's or the panel's best line of return of investment would be the potential area of focus on policy challenges that are emerging or issues that are complementary to those tackled under the other fora. We see that success will emerge from the panel being structured in order to have capacity to seamlessly establish collaborative and cooperative initiatives and benefit from the expertise of these entities. This future panel, not being an MEA, is not an instrument yielding binding outcomes. Thus, in our view, the importance of meaningful engagement of various sectors to ensure the work of the SPP is pertinent, interdisciplinary, and representing a plurality of expertise, including in the relevant natural and social sciences and indigenous knowledge and science. We also view the strong engagement of the health sector as a key feature for the work related to health impacts of chemicals, waste, and pollution. We are also seeking to find ways for the panel's work to support the meaningful involvement and collaboration with organizations and stakeholders that are concerned with the rights of underrepresented and disproportionately affected populations, especially women, children, youth, workers, and indigenous peoples, given the disproportionate impacts that chemicals, waste, and pollution issues can have on these groups. Canada recognizes that those most at risk are also active agents of change and contribute vital knowledge, experience, and leadership to environmental decision-making. The outcomes of the panel will only be more salient by integrating gender responsiveness and equity and the meaningful participation of women and girls in all their diversity as decision makers and agents of change. At OWG 3.2, we look forward to concluding our work and establishing the basis of a new international entity fostering knowledge development, a future reputable and well-recognized panel that can be an influential mechanism to propose practical and interdisciplinary outcomes to real challenges for the sound management of chemicals and waste and to prevent pollution. And we stand ready to discuss and look forward to a very positive outcome at those both meetings. So we thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. Merci beaucoup de l'opportunité de présenter aujourd'hui.
Merci beaucoup à vous, Madame Meyer. Thank you very much for sharing your perspectives during today's webinar. I now would like to call upon Len Goma from the Environmental Protection Agency of Liberia. Mr. Goma, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Tessa. Good afternoon from Monrovia. It's an honor to share my perspective on this important matter. My thanks to the Secretariat and the Geneva Environmental Network for the opportunity. I would like to thank UNEA for this landmark decision to establish a science policy panel which will contribute further to the sound management of chemicals and waste and to prevent pollution. From an African perspective, we believe this decision holds a significant importance for our sustainable development, environmental health, and economic future, given that Africa faces disproportionate risks from the improper management of hazardous chemicals and waste. Apart from the risks, Tessa, Africa also faces multiple challenges in managing chemicals and waste effectively. Key among those challenges are weak regulatory framework and limited enforcement capacities. We have always struggled to translate global chemical and waste management commitments into local actions. This means that there's either a disconnection between our scientific bodies and our policy authorities, or a lack of access to independent scientific assessment to guide our policy formation and enforcement. Therefore, having a panel that bridges this gap, providing timely, accessible, evidence-based data and recommendations that are tailored to our realities and circumstances, is a game changer for us. The output of this panel are going to help not only African nations, but all developing countries and countries with economics in transition to strengthen their implementation capacities of those international commitments, ranging from the Chemical and Waste Conventions to the GFC and other frameworks. That's why we have been calling for capacity building, especially for developing countries as part of the panel's function. And thankfully, we were able to come to terms with this. We are aware that deliverables are going to be policy relevant, but we want capacity building support for African scientists and policymakers because we know that it will help us to utilize the outputs and recommendations of the panel when it is functional. Focusing on OEWG 3.2, we believe that we have done a very good job as a team that was tasked with developing the proposal for the establishment of this panel. From Nairobi to Bangkok, back to Nairobi, and last year to Geneva, we think it's been a very long but rewarding journey. We have made significant progress, though we still have some tasks to complete. I'm excited. Africa is excited. And we are all excited about the establishment of this panel. If you follow the previous negotiations, you will realize that it has been an open process, acknowledging the diverse needs, circumstances, and capacities of member states and other stakeholders. We are hoping to see the same level of inclusive participation at OEWG 3.2. I expect us to go to Uruguay on this final round of negotiations with the same level of commitment and energy in a spirit of flexibility, progress, and compromise, and with a mindset on completing the outstanding tasks. I would like to appreciate the Secretariat for the hard work and the Chair and the Bureau for their leadership, as well as all of our partners for their commitment to this process. I believe that the panel is going to be unique and it will serve as a lifeline for the global community to collectively combat chemical and waste pollution, protect global human health, and secure a sustainable future for our upcoming generation. Thank you for allowing me to share my perspective on this matter. I hope to see you all in Uruguay in a few weeks to complete the good work that we started 2 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goma. My thanks really go out to all three panelists who gave their country perspectives. Ms. Gu, Mr. Goma, Ms. Meyer. I think these were very insightful and inspiring. So I would like now to move to the final round, which will provide us with some stakeholder perspectives. I have the pleasure to hand the floor to Melissa Wang. We know you are a senior scientist at the Greenpeace and look forward to hearing your thoughts on how the panel can empower action through knowledge, bridge existing gaps, and any other thoughts that you may wish to share ahead of OEWG 3.2. Melissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tessa. Thank you, Geneva Environment Network, for organizing the event. And thank you, Chair, Bureau, and Secretary for your dedicated work in preparing us for the upcoming OEWG. Excellencies and distinguished colleagues, good day. As many have highlighted, inclusivity has been key in the OEWG. The number of participating organizations increased, and communication and self-organization within, between, and among major groups have also been enhanced. Such inclusivity must be maintained and further strengthened when the panel becomes operational to ensure transparency, meaningful participation, and that voices, especially from disproportionately impacted and marginalized, are heard and reflected. Next slide, please. Inclusivity is one key demand in the unprecedented joint opening statement supported by all 9 major groups at the last OEWG. The other one, hand in hand, is a strong and rigorous conflicts of interest process to the highest standards. This was followed up by a more detailed written submission from 5 major groups. Next slide, please. It's to be noted that while this was not yet all major group submission, is not because of any explicit concerns, but simply due to time constraints for consultation. It's understood from the scenario note that the discussion around conflict of interest policy might be forwarded to the panel's governing body rather than to be discussed in Uruguay. But I'd like to re-emphasize its importance and the unified support from all major groups. And despite diversity in knowledge and priorities, major groups have chosen to work together to find common ground in our joint documents, agenda, and speaker decisions. Next slide, please. This requires good faith, constructive dialogue, and a certain level of flexibility. Not flexibility towards the lowest common denominator, but flexibility that ensures science is respected and that the outcomes reflect different views in a wise and respectable way that the communities which the negotiations aim to serve can trust. The example of the demand for a strong conflict of interest policy in the joint statement demonstrates this spirit perfectly. At this critical stage of finalizing negotiations towards panel establishment, this is a spirit needed. The pollution pillar of the triple planet crisis have been waiting for its dedicated science policy interface. Many speakers, including from the BRS and GFC Secretariat, have emphasized its importance and collaboration potentials. Next slide, please. 3 of us, scientists from academia, government, and civil society, co-authored a paper sharing our collective experience working as a science policy interface. And one of the most important suggestions we share in this paper, next slide, please, is to build rapport and trust. At the end of my intervention, I'd like to share a personal moment. Next slide, please. This was my first in-person IPCC meeting in Monaco 2019, a meeting that surprised me with the level of difficulty and complexity of IPCC report adoption, while inspiring me, as many others, of the dedication, wisdom, and unity of the scientists. At the end of the meeting, I went to one of the co-chairs to say thank you. My hands were held firmly, and her voice was even firmer. She said, "We have completed our task. Now we hand the torch over to you to protect our Earth." Every single one of us in the major group has been working very hard to bring our knowledge, stories, and messages to you through our submission, presentations, and bilateral meetings. Countries, the torch is now passed to you, for you to work out at the negotiation table how to conclude the negotiation and establish a science policy panel that your country and people could benefit from, and that your scientists could be proud of and empowered to contribute to. We look forward to continuing to walk and work with you in a space with robust inclusivity, transparency, and conflict of interest policies to be guaranteed by you in Uruguay. Next slide, please. The time to act is now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melissa, and much appreciated to hear also the perspectives of other stakeholders on the upcoming meeting and the panel that everyone is now working hard towards establishing. I would like to note that our time is very, very limited. There is, however, one question specifically to one of our speakers. So if this is something that can be addressed through a short answer, I would like to pose a question to Isabel Meyer. You may have seen the question in the chat. The question is, in the context of protecting human health and the environment, how can we strengthen the integration of risk assessment, risk management, and regulatory enforcement, both at a domestic level and through international cooperation to ensure effective monitoring and performance evaluation? It sounds like a very big question, so I'm not sure I'm giving you a fair opportunity to answer it, but Isabel, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Tessa, and thank you, Marie-Thérèse, for the question. I don't think it is indeed a big question, and I just wanted to acknowledge the question as a very important one, and maybe to say that there is much to say about it, but today I would say that addressing all of these issues, thinking about them as a cycle in management of chemicals and waste is helpful. So that the planning of all of these steps in the management of chemicals and waste can be complementary and thought through in advance, so that the risk assessment, risk management also provides some insight as to how the monitoring can be done, and how the performance evaluation of certain measures can be done. So thinking about it as a cycle is an approach. I don't think I'll go into much more details. We don't have time today, but thank you very much for the question. I hope this was at least a little bit helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isabel, and my thanks really go out to all of the panelists that spoke today. Thank you for your important reflections, and also thanks to everyone online who has been engaging in the discussion today through the chat. It's encouraging to hear the different perspectives from all the speakers ahead of OEWG 3.2. The positive spirit that's also transpiring from today's interventions, and the expectations of the importance of this panel and the work that it can bring to the world. without further ado, it's now my great pleasure to welcome our gracious host from Uruguay to offer some closing remarks for this session. Alejandro Nairo, National Director of the Quality and Environmental Assessment of the Ministry of Environment of Uruguay. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Tessa. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the invitation for the webinar. As we look ahead to the important gathering that will soon take place in Punta del Este, Uruguay, we recognize that we are the very beginning of something truly meaningful. We are laying the foundation for a global scientific panel that will help us better understand the impact of chemicals, waste, and pollution on human health and the environment. This panel is not a legally binding agreement. It is by design a different structure, one rooted in science, cooperation, and the urgent need for knowledge-based action for decision makers. The resolution adopted by the United Nations Environment Assembly provides the overarching structure and fundamental principles that direct our action and strategies in addressing the establishment of the panel. It gives us both the mandate and the inspiration to move forward with this purpose, but also with the flexibility necessary to allow the panel to take shape in functional, inclusive, and responsive way. Just as the IPBES and IPCC refine these procedures and governance over time, so too must we leave space for the organic development of this panel. The initial arrangements we agree upon will be essential, but they should not limit our ambition. This is also a call for the broad and active participation of the global scientific community, from all latitudes, disciplines, and backgrounds. To guarantee the panel focuses on actual needs and produce practical, science-based solutions, it is essential to include wider expertise. Careful consideration must be given to provisional measures. They will enable to immediate commencement of the panel critical operations, while strategic partnership or collaboration may be established as required. Finally, as host of the upcoming conference, we warmly welcome you to Uruguay. We are honored to receive you at this important milestone and to share with you a glance of our country, its natural beauty, its people, and the values that define us: openness, dialogue, and collaboration. These are the same values we hope will inspire and guide our collective effort as we take this vital step forward together. We look forward to seeing you in Punta del Este. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your warm words of welcome, Director Nario, and for all the incredibly hard work that you and your team are doing to welcome all the participants of OEWG 3.2 and the Intergovernmental Meeting to Punta del Este in Uruguay. As we come to the close of this webinar.
I want to thank you very much, the Secretary team. We are working together very hard, and I think it's important for have a very good meeting.
Thank you so much for the assurance, and we are all very much looking forward to also seeing you in Punta del Este in person for those that are traveling, and perhaps online for those that will be following the proceedings through the live link. But thank you very much. With these closing remarks, I also would like to really point to the closure of the Roads to OWEG 3.2 webinar series and give my sincere thanks to the Geneva Environment Network for the excellent collaboration and support. Diana and your team, it's been great working with you as well and helping to prepare everyone for the upcoming meetings. My thanks also go to all the distinguished speakers for today, and of course to you, our audience, for making the time for this briefing and for following perhaps also many of the other webinars in this series in the past year. We're truly on the final stretch of the road to OWEG 3.2, and I wish you the best in your preparations. Safe travels to Uruguay for those traveling, and we look forward to a good outcome to of the resumed session. And before closing, we'll hand back to Diana for further updates on the next upcoming webinars. Diana, the floor is back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tessa. Thank you to all our speakers, to all our attendees. We will also answer some of the questions that remained unanswered that are just coming up now. I just wanted to flag two important elements. First, the road to Punta del Este. We have been hosting various events in preparation of these meetings. You can rewatch the videos of the events and the summaries are already available, except for the one we are having today, which should be ready before the meeting, of course. Then the other element that I want to bring to attention is an important day coming up next week. Next week, we are celebrating World Environment Day on the 5th of June in Busan, which is the main host, but in many other places around the world. The topic is how it's on ending plastic pollution. And of course, we are going to welcome in Geneva in August an important negotiation, the resumed session of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee. So exactly 2 months ahead of that negotiation, we are celebrating World Environment Day, and the celebration in Geneva will be very important in building momentum for a successful outcome of that also important moment this year. We heard from Rolf at the beginning about what happened at the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions meeting of the Conference of the Parties. We have also Minamata coming up later this year. So it's a busy agenda for many of you. And we hope that in Geneva and many other places around the world next week on 5th of June, you will be there celebrating with us. Thank you very much.